Hello and welcome to the second edition of 2-Minute Catholic. Thanks for joining us. You can submit your questions below anytime and I'll do my best to respond to them in under 2 minutes. So our question that's been submitted for today. Obviously, much of the Bible does not align scientifically with what we know today, like the creation story. How do we interpret that? All right. So it sounds like you're referring to a lot more instances than just the creation story, but we'll tackle that one in particular today. So first off, the Church absolutely supports the teaching of evolution. There's been an openness to it since the 19th century, and it's been officially supported since 1950. So there's no conflict between the idea of evolution and the idea that God created the universe and created human beings in his own image, etc. There's no conflict between the theory of evolution and the creation story we see in Genesis. And that's because, as we talked about last time, the Genesis creation story is not meant to be a literal account of how God created the earth in 6 days. Rather, it's a story, as we talked about the other day, meant to convey a much deeper message than that. So the creation story that came into being amongst the Jews 2,500, 3,000 years ago orally, and then was eventually written down in its form that we know it today, it was a stark contrast to other people's creation stories at the time. At that time, most other people told stories of gods, multiple gods, creating the world basically for their own pleasure and basically running amok on the earth. It was chaos. They used human beings as puppets for their own entertainment and adventures. And in Genesis, we see something very different. First, we see one God. Second, we see a God who creates intentionally, a God who brings order out of chaos, who creates out of a formless wasteland, it says. And it says he created the earth and there was order in the story. And day one, he creates the day and the night. And then on day 4, he creates the sun and the moon and the stars. On day 2, he creates the sky and the waters. And on day 5, he creates the creatures of the sky and the creatures of the waters. And on day 3, he creates the land. And on day 6, he creates the animals and things of the land and human beings. So there's order to this universe amidst what might often seem like chaos and disorder in our lives. God creates intentionally. And number 3, so that's number 2, God creates intentionally. Number 3, God has a special relationship with human beings. We are created in the image and likeness of God, it says, which we can say more about that another time. And we're given dominion over creation, not a dominion in the manner of domination and to do whatever we want with it, but dominion to care for it, as God has dominion over us and cares for us. So that's perhaps a 4th point. And finally, 5thly, God saw it and it was good. Creation is good. People are good, and you are good. God sees you and loves you. And this is crucial. This is the fact that at our core, we are originally and fundamentally good. It's right there, right at the very beginning of Scripture, that's affirmed. And it doesn't just say that God saw it and it was good. It says that God saw it and it was very good. So those are 5 key points I would mention about the creation story in Genesis. Thanks for joining us this time, and we'll see you next time.